I'm Tennille.
And I'm Kelsey, and we're financial advisors from Allman Partners True Wealth, bringing you thought-provoking conversations around you, your money and your life on the Wealth Experience podcast.
Welcome back, listeners, to the Wealth Experience podcast. Today's discussion is a bit of is it controversial the right word? Let's find out. We're going to talk about why paying tax is great. It's a good thing. Let's all pay some taxes to the ATO.
Most people will say that's controversial. You never hear people say that.
I can hear you all in the background now thinking, what on earth are you talking about? I don't like paying tax. No one likes paying tax. Yes, okay, that's true. But we're going to shed a little light on why it might be a good thing. And there are some positives to think about whenever you have to pay a tax bill. Because let's not forget, Benjamin Franklin once said there's two things in life that are certain, death and taxes. So, my friends, let's jump on in. Kelsey, tell me why paying tax is a good thing.
Let's do it. So yes, given that Benjamin Franklin said that and we're all going to have to pay taxes, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. We should try and see it in a more positive light, right?
Okay. You might have me I'm a fish. I'm running along. I can see the bait over there. I'm not falling for it yet, though. So try and convince me.
Okay. Well, the first thing is, if you're paying taxes, it means that you're making money, right?
Of course I am.
Right?
Yeah, of course I am.
And the more tax that you're paying, it means you're making more money. No, but really, of course, if you're paying tax, it probably and you're worried about the level of tax, so you've got a bit of a creep there where you're paying more and more. It probably means that you've got a strong cash flow, or your cash flow is getting stronger from what it was some years back, which is of course a good thing because it creates more opportunities for you in your life to do other things with your surplus that you're now able to have. Yes, some of it is of course getting paid in taxes, otherwise you'd have more surplus, but you've still got more that you can do with. So a couple of things to think about that may not be so obvious. So even though you're paying more tax, even if it means that, because there's some situations where you might go up a tax bracket and your income stays pretty much the same after you've been taxed, right? Even if you have a bit of a movement. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for things like purchasing a house, so you've got to give a proof of income statement to the bank. So if you are thinking about doing that, and whether you're a business owner or as an individual, if you can show that you're earning more money, that's going to put you in good stead to be able to get something that's more suitable to your new budget.
Yes. Okay. I actually think I've seen cases of this where individuals have wanted to reduce their tax payable position, so they haven't, distributed income out to themselves.
Yeah.
And it's hindered them either for buying a house or secondly, even for insurances. So they might be on paper making hundreds of thousands of dollars in a trust or a company structure, but bringing none of that to themselves. Therefore, personal exertion may not be possible to be shown for getting income protection.
Absolutely. So you could be earning $1 million a year, but if you're only taking $100,000 worth of income, for instance,
that's all they're going to see. That's all.
When you want to go and apply for that nice fancy house that you probably can afford.
Yeah.
They don't see it on paper. So sometimes pulling money out, paying that little bit of extra tax is actually going to get you more of the things that are the goals in your life, the things that you desire, the things that you're working hard to achieve. Yeah. So I think it's just moving the mentality that, it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I see what you're saying. So paying tax can be a good thing because it enables me to do some of the goals that are important to me in life. Doesn't mean that we need to pay more than is necessary.
Absolutely.
Though, right?
Absolutely. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying just throw all your money away in tax.
Come see Kelsey and Tennille and you can pay more tax.
That's definitely not what we're saying. But yes, it generally it's a good thing. It means that you're earning a good level of income. But yes, you're right. It shouldn't mean that you're paying more than what's absolutely necessary. So some of the things that you need to think of course, is having a focus on tax planning. And that's not just year on year, that's long term too, depending on what your situation is, particularly if you are a business owner, so that you don't have any surprises and that you're prepared for it, and then it's less stress, because there's so many situations out there where people just haven't done good tax planning, and then every single year rolls around and they do the tax returns and, oh damn, how am I going to come up with this money for the big tax bill? Yes. Which makes it seem like it's even more of a catastrophic event than what it probably would have felt like if you'd actually planned for it.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the reverse is true as well. If you're if you're a PAYG situation, you're an employed situation and you're getting tax returns, remember tax returns exist because you've already paid too much money to the ATO, and that's typically because you've got deductions and offsets and all these other things. So good tax planning for a PAYG individual is often, how do I maximize out the tax returns that I've got there in a way that doesn't detriment me by taking money out of my pocket for unnecessary costs.
So we're saying the tax system is fair?
I'm not, come on, I used the word controversial at the start. I'm not going to make a call on that. All we're saying here is you got to get your tax planning right. You're the one who said
look,
if you're a business manager, you've got to do it as an employee
That's
too.
Right. You can only control what you can control, right? Another thing to look at then when you're doing your tax planning, like you're saying, is to look at if there's any incentives. So business owner or as an individual, there's always going to be different tax incentives that might be available to you. So certainly make sure you check that out, speak with your accountant.
And that's important too, Kelsey, right? Because these days people can do their tax returns online all through the system. Sometimes there's a good reason not to just lodge it that way and actually go and see a qualified accountant or tax agent for these incentives.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's lots of things. Remember, you're not a specialist in the field. And even if you think your situation's quite simple, maybe you're not a business owner, you go to work and you're earning an income. There could be so many gaps in that thinking that would mean if you'd just gone and paid an accountant to do your tax return, they would have actually been able to potentially get you some more money back simply by seeing the accountant in the first place. That's not always necessarily true, but certainly engaging with a conversation with a professional to see if it's worthwhile for you is the way to go.
100%. And so what about for business owners in that space where they might have those bigger things that they need to think about for tax planning purposes? Division 7A loans comes to mind.
Yeah. So every 7 years, Div 7A loans will expire and effectively have to be paid back. So this is borrowed money from entities.
Yeah, okay.
That you've taken out.
Yeah. So I've got structures like companies in place and I've moved money between those structures. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And you'll need to make a plan for having those repaid, reconciling those, et cetera. And for that reason, there might be some tax that could be generated along the way. Perhaps you need to realise an asset that's going to give you a gain to be able to pay that debt back or whatever that may be, right? That can happen.
Because it's a loan.
Yeah. So then you need to start thinking about, well, what can I do to reduce that? And there's things that you can look at, and you'd have to work with an advisor, a financial advisor and your accountant to go, well, can I make some concessional contributions perhaps to reduce my tax bill? So there is things that you can do, and we're not going to delve into the nitty-gritty of those. We've certainly done podcasts in that space as well if you want to have a listen around, what are those things? But that's just the importance of actually having a plan.
100%, yeah. So tax can be a good thing. You shouldn't pay more than you need to. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they can even improve our way of living. So, for example, let's talk about the positives, the fluffy stuff. Taxes are the government's main revenue source, and they use that to redirect back into the areas that make up our society and the way that we function. So the more tax money the government has, the more they have available for things like police, education, buildings, roads, hospitals. And let's not take this for granted, we are very fortunate in Australia. It's not this way all around the world, that we have the way of life that we do. And this does come back to the fact that the government needs money from taxes from us to be able to support our society.
Exactly right. And I think that that's something that's definitely really important to just remember when you're feeling hurt about your tax bill that you've got to pay, and or if you've already paid tax along the way and you look at your PAYG slip at the end of the year and you go, good God, I've spent that much on tax. To just remember that, we are very fortunate here, particularly in Australia, in the way that we live our lives. And if you wasn't paying that much tax, that would apply to everybody else, and what that means is we'd be living in a different way.
100%. 100%. This is not on tax, but kind of in that same vein. I did my CPR course the other day and was reminded of the fact that in Queensland, we don't have to pay for an ambulance if we need one. So ring the ambulance, you don't have to pay for it. In other states, you actually will have to foot that cost a couple $1,000s, and that comes out of our rates. And it's kind of that same premise, right? You go, oh, wow, we don't have to pay for that. I do. It comes from somewhere else. It comes from the rates that I pay. Same thing with taxes. You get all all these benefits. Remember, you've paid the money to the government, and that's where you get these benefits from to benefit the society as a whole.
Yeah. And to know there's probably some of this relevant now, maybe not in the future if you listen to this, but there's been some tax rate changes this year for the financial year 24-25, right?
Yeah, there has. A lot of people have won this year with the budget changes to taxes, which is seeing all Australians pay less tax, aimed at reducing down those costs of living pressures, which we're feeling in the current environment. That's...
And again, because it does change, and it can change year on year, not just the tax rates necessarily, but the incentives and all these different bits and pieces that are available to you, they do change each year. So that's just another important part of why you should tax plan every 100%. Year. So don't ignore it. Don't wait for the bill to come around. Make a plan for what you're going to do and maximise what you can in your situation.
That's right. And that budget every year that comes out, it's going to make those changes. Now, just for anybody that's interested, Allwyn Partners do a budget wrap up every year that we release on our website in our education materials. If you did want to get a really quick summary of that, because every year the budget rolls around, there's all this information that's put out there. A lot of it may not be relevant to you. So there's a good summary that we do release.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you check that out. And that's all for today's poddy. We know that tax is definitely a hot topic. So we would really, really like to hear from you on some more specifics in this space that you'd like to hear more on. And perhaps we'll team up with an accountant and we'll get into the nitty gritty, because as you know, Tennealle and I are financial advisors. So having both professionals sit together to talk through some of these concepts will be helpful. So just let us know. And as always, please don't forget to follow, like, share and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
The opinions of the presenters are objectively ascertainable and are not intended to be financial product or personal advice.